Hello everyone, this is The Question, and this is going to be an unhaul video. About every 3 to 4 months, I like to make a sweep through of stuff that I didn't enjoy, stuff that I ended up deciding that I wasn't interested in, just anything that I know that I'm not going to reread or that I really don't want to have in my collection. I go ahead and purge. This is a healthy thing to do with anybody who collects stuff, keeps you from, if you are unwilling to unhaul stuff, that does put you in the designation of a hoarder. So if you are willing to get rid of stuff when you don't like it, that is what a sane person should do with their collection. It helps make room, helps curate your collection. And so I am going to be doing that in this video. I'm going to be getting rid of quite a lot, probably almost 100 volumes. Which, when you're bringing in 50 to 100 a month, it's not the hugest thing, but it will create some space for me. So I'm looking forward to that. So let's get right into what I'm unhauling. Okay, so starting off, I'm going to start with the single volumes and kind of the maybe 1 to 2 volume sets that I am unhauling before I move on to the longer running series. So first off, we have a new series, and that is Snowball Earth Volume 1. Like a lot of these ones that I'm unhauling, you're gonna see it's not that I disliked one of the volumes or I disliked the first volume, it's just that it really didn't hook me. And maybe later on down the line, if this thing gets rave reviews and it looks more like something I'm really going to enjoy, then I'll pick up the series later on. But at least with this first volume, I'm fine not going any further with it. And that's how I felt about Snowball Earth. Next up, we have the first 2 volumes of the Darwin Incident. First volume, interesting storyline, interesting conceit for a story, but it had some goofy elements that I didn't know if I was going to end up liking the series. And then I've heard enough from people who have read it farther on down the line that it didn't get any better, that they unhauled it too. So I decided to go ahead and move on from this one. Here's one that I didn't even read, and that is Mechanical Man Blues. I don't know why I bought this. I bought it, it was pretty cheap. I'd never heard of it. I flipped through it. It does not look like something that I would enjoy or something that I would be interested in reading. So again, I'm not really sure why I bought this. So I'll just be unhauling this one. Here's another one I did not read, and these are just some random, really cheap volumes of Battle Royale that I picked up. To get a complete set of this, it's going to be a few $100. And I really like the Battle Royale movie. I watched that back early 2000s, really big fan of it, but not really, if this was readily available, I'd read it, but not really something I want to spend a couple $100 for, especially with these lesser quality Tokyo Pop release. I kind of would wish that it gets reprinted and then redone by another company, and then I'd decide to take a chance on it. But yeah, so I'm gonna pass along these 2. They're pretty rough shape volumes. Next up, we have a Starfruit Books release. This is Young, Alive, in Love, Volume 1. I think this is a 3-volume series, and this Volume 1, I think, has been out for about 2 years. It was just okay. I just don't need, I doubt would continue reading any more of it, so I'm just gonna go ahead and move on from it. Maybe they will complete it at some point. Here we have one that should have been right up my alley, Breakfast with My Two-Tailed Cat, Volume 1. This is a slice of life about a man whose wife passes away, and his cat ends up, his cat that they had together to kind of make him feel better becomes this oversized cat that he then has to provide food for. And the whole premise of this series is, it's very episodic, and it's basically just him every single morning creating a different breakfast for his cat. So seemed like it would be up my alley, cute. I found it pretty boring and tedious about halfway through, so I won't be moving forward with this one. Next up, we have a Manhwa Volume 1, and that is Savage Garden. This one was just a cover buy. I kind of bought it, kind of gave me similar vibes to Heart of Thomas when I pre-ordered it. from a Blaze manga, and then it got delayed. Like, I think it had been delayed for like a year, and I completely forgot about this volume. And then when it arrived, like, I haven't heard anybody talk about this series. I did read it. It was fine, but didn't really hook me at any, like a lot of manhwa, I didn't really get anything out of it. So I'm going to be moving on from this one. If you've read this one or know anything, you know, have any thoughts on this one, definitely let me know. But yeah, at least I don't think I've heard anybody mention the series. We have Whoever Steals This Book, Volume 1. This is another one, fine, but didn't hook me in any way. Same thing here, another one, just kind of a mediocre first volume, Witch Life in a Micro Room. Both these two, I think, are going to be fairly shorter series, but even with that, you know, there was nothing that hooked me in them. We have another fairly new volume 1, and that is, here we have a couple that I actually just didn't like. And the first one here, we have Eiko and Bambi. This is by the creator of Horimiya, series that I have not read. This one I couldn't even finish. Like, I didn't even make it like maybe halfway through. I was so bored with the story in this one. The artwork inside, like the coloring that they did for the panels, is really nice. I really like this paneling. Too bad I didn't enjoy this more. But yeah, I found this one real tedious, real boring. I could not even finish it. Same thing here. I could not finish this one, and that is Beast Strings. This is one that I bought. Looks similar to Beastars. Obviously, I knew it wasn't related, wasn't by the same creator, but I saw it was full color. I was like, let me check it out. And again, this is another one. I maybe made it halfway through. It's a lot going on here. None done really well. Artwork is okay. Artwork is decent, but yeah, the storytelling, the plot that's going on here, characters, none of that grabbed me. So moving on from this one. And I haven't heard anybody say anything, like I've seen tons of people talk about this series or that volume, and I haven't heard anybody say anything positive about it. We have The White and Blue Between Us. This is just a standard high school BL. Nothing special about it. Very similar story to what I've read in a lot of high school BLs. So this one here, fine, but don't need to keep in my collection. This one was actually just so I have here The Name of the Flower Volume 2. This one was just when I was completing the set of this, I had an extra volume. So this one here is nothing against this series, but I have an extra volume 2. We have a random volume I've had in my collection for a long time, and that is Satan's Secretary Volume 1. And I actually really enjoyed this volume. It was pretty funny, pretty weird Volume 1, but it never got completed. It never went any farther. All we got was this Volume 1. So I'd kept it in my collection for a while, but I was like, I'm not ever really going to reread this. And I had picked this up used as it was. But yeah, too bad we didn't get more of this, because I did really enjoy this Volume 1. Here we have probably one of my most disappointing volumes of the year based on the cover, and that is Since I Could Die Tomorrow Volume 1. This one is a slice of life with a 40-year-old character. Really like the watercolor covers here, really great artwork on the covers. But again, this is one that just, man, I really struggled to even finish this first volume. Nothing in it hooked me at all, so pretty disappointed about this one. I was really excited for this release. I don't think it's gotten very good reviews, but you know, I'm sure some people like it, or else it wouldn't have came over here. But yeah, I just pretty disappointed by this one. Wish I would have enjoyed this more. Okay, moving on, we have another 2 volumes. I actually didn't read these 2. This is The Alchemist Who Survived Now Dreams of a Quiet City Life. And you might have heard of this series, but this is actually, there was just a newer, kind of like a reboot of this series. So they released 2 volumes of this manga, and then it got completely rebooted by new creators. And I had picked up these 2 randomly one time. So I have not read these. I wasn't that interested in them to begin with. And then knowing that it was just these 2 volumes and was moving on to another series, didn't make sense for me to keep them. Here is one that I actually really enjoyed that I'm getting rid of, and that is Dear No Man Volume 1 and 2. This is a really cute Yuri series, but unfortunately it has a really stellar Volume 1, and then you can tell like the series got canceled, so they had to really heavily speed up and wrap up everything for Volume 2. So if this would have been a ongoing series, would have gone maybe 8-10 volumes, probably would have been a really fantastic Yuri series, but unfortunately really rushed to wrap up, and so I don't ever see myself rereading this one. So there's those 2 volumes. Here's another one that I enjoyed, and probably people are going to be surprised that I have it in my unhaul, and that is Initial D, the Omnibus Volume 1. I don't have any history with Initial D. I'm not really into car culture stuff, not into cars at all. But you know, I wanted to support them bringing this out, and I enjoyed this first volume. It didn't blow me away. I'd probably give it like a 3.5 stars out of 5. And if it was a shorter series, I probably would have kept buying these, but knowing that there's going to be like, you know, 25 of these omnibuses, and that's going to take up a giant amount of space, I didn't like it enough to want to continue that far buying these. So if for whatever reason sometime I do decide to read this, I'll read it digitally through an app or something. But yeah, just it was a fine volume. I'm glad they're bringing this out, but not something that I need like 25 of these on my shelf. Okay, next up, another Volume 1. This is one, premise looked interesting to me. It's about this girl who, college student, she is given 2 years to live. She runs into her old professor, and she always had a crush on him, and she really wants to start hanging out with him, but she's obviously not mentioning that she's, you know, she's only got a certain amount of time to live. So premise seemed interesting. There is something about halfway through this series that is so over the top and ridiculous. I'm not going to spoil it here if you're interested in reading it, but yeah, that took me out of it. I couldn't take this series any serious after that, and it was already just kind of okay. So I'll be moving on from this one. It is a short, I think it's only like 3 volumes. Next up, we have a new series by Alien Books. This is one that Alien Books, new manga publisher. They're releasing a decent amount of series all around the last couple months. You know, obviously they're definitely for someone, but none of them really seemed like they were going to be up my alley. This one probably looked the closest. Mystery series, and this first volume was fine. You know, it didn't grab me specific, or you know, especially, but kind of just your standard manga mystery series. But I've heard a lot of people raving about these releases from Alien Books. I was not that big of a fan. The volume is pretty small. It's also very tightly, you know, it's very tightly wrapped. It's very, like, by the end of me reading this first volume, both my hands were sore and cramped from like having to really force the volume open. It's very tightly created compared to like your standard volume where it's, you know, very loose and easy to turn pages. The pages in this one are it's just very tightly bound is the word that I was thinking of, and just made it kind of hard to read. So I wasn't a real big fan of the way that this release is, other than the dust jacket, which is nice. And yeah, the mystery didn't hook me that much. A little silly, like a lot of manga mystery series are. But yeah, so I'm not going to move forward with this one. Next, we have a one-shot. This one was a complete blind buy. Didn't really read anything about the premise. This is Taking Care of God. The only thing I knew is that I think the original story is by the creator of Three Body Story, if I'm not mistaken, which has a Netflix series. And yeah, this one was sci-fi series about these aliens who are sending their old people to Earth for us to take care, for Earthlings to take care of them. The artwork was good, but yeah, it was just pretty silly and over the top. You know, it didn't really connect with me at all. So not a one-shot. I usually really enjoy one-shots. I usually will hold on to one-shots, but this one didn't really do anything for me. Next we have one that's Honey Lemon Soda, romantic high school comedy. This is a pretty standard, generic one, at least from the first volume that I read. If this was like an 8 to 10 volume series, I probably would have held on to it just to see kind of where it went, give it a couple more volumes. But knowing that this is like 25 plus volumes in Japan, let me know that I don't really, I definitely wasn't connected enough where I was going to read 30, 40 volumes of the series. So I'm going to move along from this one. Next up, we have The Heart of Thomas. For anybody who is unaware, this got a reprint recently. So I'm going to be unhauling my old ex-library copy. It's a little beat up, but still very readable. I've already gotten my new reprint copy. So fantastic book. If you're interested, definitely pick this book up. Moto Hagayo, everything she does is great. But Heart of Thomas is fantastic. But I'll be moving on from this ex-library one I had. Okay, moving on. I got one more 2-volume one, and then we're going to start getting to some of the bigger sized volumes series that I'll be unhauling. So first off, we have the 2 volumes of My Secret Affection. This is a completed series. This one, okay, it is a science fiction series about a world where a comet happens and it eliminates heterosexuality, so everybody is now homosexual. The only person that is not affected by this is this guy's, I forget, either uncle or grandpa, who was an astronaut, so he was up in space. So when he comes down, he is still heterosexual, but everybody that's on Earth that experienced the comet is homosexual. And then the basic story is this girl finds out that she's having feelings for her best friend here. So very weird storyline, but I did enjoy it. It was an enjoyable story. It ends in a way that I was definitely not expecting. I was expecting like a really cookie cutter, easy ending, and it did not have that. So I was impressed with that. But yeah, just nothing I see myself rereading. Next up, we have The Splendid Work of a Monster Made. I read through the first 2 volumes of this 5-volume series, and it's another one. It was fine, very episodic. I'm usually not that big into episodic stuff. It kind of reminded me a lot of Frank and Fran and kind of the format of like each little story, them dealing with a little issue and then moving on from it. But yeah, it was fine, but it just didn't grab me enough to want to read through the whole series. So here's what the covers look like. Really nice covers, really good artwork. And that is that. But I did buy all these new, and like a lot of Kodansha books, as you can see there, the top is like destroyed on all of these. That's how they came new. Next up, we have a series. This is a series that I never read. I just randomly grabbed all these volumes for cheap. Didn't know too much about it, and that is Alice and Zoroku. I have since read another series by this creator that I really didn't care for, and so I don't think this series ever got wrapped up. As far as I'm aware, Volume 9, like it's still on hiatus, and Volume 9 came out years ago. So I just don't think I'm really going to be that interested in this, so I decided to move on from it. I'm not going to show you every volume, but yeah, so I have 1 through 9 of that series. Next up, we have the 5 volumes of Phantom Dream. Yep, 5 volumes. This is, like it says on the cover, from the creator of Fruits Basket. After I read Fruits Basket, I went on a tear and bought a bunch of this creator's other works. This was their very first work, and it is not very good. So I read through the first volume. The artwork is very rough. I mean, it's someone's first series, but the storytelling is really, really hard to follow. I just didn't connect with this one at all. So I'm gonna move on from that one. So here is the rest of the series. Next up, we have a series that I'm unhauling because I find it gross, and that is Soul Liquid Chambers. This one, it was a blind buy. I just bought because I like the colors, I like the title. Didn't know much about it. I'd heard people say that it had some questionable things to it, but I was like, oh, it's rated older teen. How bad could it be? The grossness parts of it, like the bloods, stuff like that, doesn't bother me at all. But there's a lot of sexualization of a child character in this that is really gross, that I was not totally aware of before I read this. So that makes it, you know, I made it through the first volume. If they would have just removed that and just had this be kind of a, you know, just a crazy story, then I probably would have enjoyed this series. But with that in it, I can't keep this, and I can't read. I definitely don't want to read any more of it. So that is volume 1, and then here is volume 2 and 3. Next up, we have another series that I did not read, and this is Maiden Abyss. I picked up all of the volumes when the reprint happened. I ordered all this series. I thought it was just going to be, you know, cute series. I'd heard some kind of negative things, just like with Soul Liquid Chamber, some kind of, you know, problematic stuff about this series. And then I flipped through some of it, and yeah, there was a lot of stuff in here that I don't feel comfortable reading. If you enjoy this series, that's great. I'm not going to say anything about that, but just at least for me, it's not a series that I feel comfortable reading, having in my collection. So I'm going to go ahead and move on from this one. And lastly, we have 2 series I'm unhauling, and these are the 2 most disappointing. Both of these I was really hyped to read, and I just really didn't care for either of them. So pretty disappointing, but it does create quite a lot of space on my shelf, so that is a good thing. The first one here is Dorohedoro. I actually read the first few volumes of Die Dark when they came out. So before, you know, I was still working on waiting for reprints to get all of Dorohedoro. So I hadn't read it before, and I really enjoyed the first few volumes of Die Dark. But yeah, this one, the artwork is very messy, there's a lot going on in the artwork, and I realize some people really appreciate that. It was really hard for me to focus on. And the storytelling, the characters, just what's going on in this, none of it grabbed me. I read through the first, I think, 3 volumes, and you know, the character design is interesting, but yeah, just none of the characters really grabbed me. I just had a really hard time reading this. I know some people have mentioned that the anime is a really good way to ingest this series, and I'm not a big anime guy, but you know, if I do ever decide to get to it in the future, then I'll definitely go that way. But yeah, I'm very disappointed. This seemed like something that'd be right up my alley, but yeah, didn't connect with it, and that is okay. Okay, and lastly, we have another big disappointment, and that is Yamada-kun and the 7 Witches. It took me a long time to complete this series, and I made it through the first 5 volumes. First 2, I gave like a 3.5 out of 5 stars, and that was more based on promise of the series than, you know, I probably, if I was really thinking about it, I'd probably get closer to 3s. But yeah, as the series went along, I started getting way less invested in the mystery that was going on, in the characters, and you know, it's got a lot of etchiness in this series that is played way more for comedy than it is for any sort of gross reasons. But I didn't find this series funny at all. Like, I didn't laugh once. Just not my type of humor. And like I said, the mystery didn't grab me. The characters, a little bit interesting, but as they went along and they kept adding more characters and people with more powers, and there was just a lot of kissing back and forth, transferring powers 50 times a volume, it just kind of got overkill. So I will be unhauling this one, which is unfortunate because this is one that I did think I would like. But yeah, just, you know, like I said before, just not for me. I'm sure there will be someone that's happy to get a complete set of this when I sell this off. But yeah, that was it. And I'm just showing the first 4 here. But I did have the full set up through 28. And that was everything I'm unhauling. Okay, so this stack here, this is everything that I'm unhauling. It's going to make it very easy for me to put stuff on the shelf for the next haul or two, now that I'll have this much cleared out space, which is always great, especially since I'm starting to go into another room with the massive amount of manga that I have. So yeah, even though it's disappointing that you didn't enjoy a series as much as you thought you would, it also does feel good to make space and then move these on to someone who will hopefully enjoy them more. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. If you think I'm an idiot for getting rid of some of these, go ahead and let me know in the comments. You're obviously not going to change my mind, but I do like hearing different opinions. You know, I'm sure Dorohedoro is someone's favorite series. Made in Abyss is someone's favorite series. But yeah, again, not everything is for everybody. So I will see you in the next video.